Hello again, everyone. I wanted to make another update to talk about the severe weather that did occur on Wednesday, June 17th, and then some more chances for severe weather in the forecast. So first, looking at these ratings from June 17th, we did have several tornadoes touch down, several in Illinois and Indiana, and then some up in Iowa and Wisconsin. So first, looking at the Iowa and Wisconsin ones, we saw a long track one that kind of just went from northeast Iowa into Wisconsin and then lifted a couple of times but did touch back down. But that first touchdown was the most intense one, earning a rating of EF2. And then we saw several, but the most notable ones include one near Mattoon, Illinois that was rated an EF2. And then we also had an EF2 just north of Bloomington, Indiana. Some of these ratings are preliminary and could be changed, but right now this is what we're seeing these first ratings come out as. So although the risk ended up shifting quite a bit south of where we expected it earlier, like the day or two before, kind of moved south because of some lingering morning convection and not so great thermos that kind of prevented this risk from setting up in the region we first expected it to, but it still did perform just a little bit farther south. So thanks for all that watched my video, and hopefully that gave you an idea of where to expect that risk, especially as it kind of shifted over the coming days. So now looking at the forecast, looking at the SPC outlooks, we don't see any risks more intense than marginal today. We're just seeing a marginal risk across much of the country, though. We have 4 separate risk areas, one in Northern California and Nevada, and then we also have a very large one in the southeastern U.S. stretching from Texas all the way into North Carolina, also includes parts of Florida. And then we have another risk in Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas, and then another one further north, including a good chunk of Minnesota and Wisconsin. So we're looking at only one tornado threat out of all those risks, and that's over here in North and South Carolina. But wind and hail will be the main threat throughout the rest of the risks, especially hail in those northern 2 risks. That includes areas like Minneapolis. And tomorrow we see an enhanced risk of severe weather back into the plains. This one has the potential to reduce all hazards of severe weather, and tornadoes are back in the forecast for those areas. So looking at our tornado threat, we do see a 10% SIG 1 that includes a lot of Kansas and Nebraska, and then a 2% surrounding that. We also see that wind and hail threat throughout those areas with a SIG 1, so we could see some large hail and some winds of 70 miles per hour or greater. And then day 3, we see a large slight risk going from Nebraska into western Indiana, and then a marginal risk around that. We're just seeing 15% and 5% risk so far, but we'll be able to see specific hazards tomorrow. So looking at models, first want to look at the HRRR for today's threat in the plains. We have ongoing showers and storms in Texas and Oklahoma. Those will move east and weaken throughout the day, but we do see those storms expected to flare up as we head into Saturday afternoon. We see those cells start to pop up in eastern Colorado and then move into Nebraska and Kansas. And that's where we see that all hazards threat of severe weather. And this is kind of where our tornado risk is outlined. And this HRRR model is kind of showing that it thinks there could be some rotating storms. So that's why we have that. One of the reasons why we have that risk. And then as we head into the early overnight hours, those will grow upscale into more of a cluster as they head into Kansas and Missouri, and that will kind of set the stage for Sunday's risk. This is as far out as the HRRR model goes. This is about Sunday at 7 a.m. Central Time. So I'll switch to the Rufus model to give you an idea of where this will occur, so we do see a similar setup as the HRR is showing as we head into Saturday afternoon and evening. These storms firing in first Colorado and then kind of moving into Nebraska and Kansas as we head into the evening. Those will grow upscale into a cluster, but as we head into the early morning, Sunday those should weaken but will re-intensify as new storms develop in the afternoon and evening in that slight risk of severe weather from Missouri over into Illinois, and also moving south into the Kentucky and Indiana area late night on Sunday and then into Monday morning. And then that tropical storm Arthur did form. It's kind of weakening in the Gulf, but as it moves on shore, it has produced some heavy rain and flooding throughout the southern U.S. and Gulf Coast states. It has caused some major flooding in that Gulf Coast area, and we could see some more rain over the next 7 days in that area. And then further north in the Midwest and plains where those storms are expected, we could also see some heavy rain. And then looking at 6 to 10 day outlooks, you kind of see how this pattern is set up with slightly below normal than average temperatures expected in the Midwest and Great Lakes area, but this warmer than average temperatures are expected from the West Coast down to the Gulf Coast. And then we see above average precipitation for most of the country. So where we have those cooler than average temperatures expected, we see more precipitation than average, and then where we have warmer than average, a little bit drier than average is likely. And then we see a little bit of a change in the 8 to 14 day outlook as warm temperatures are expected for most of the country and then near normal just for that northern plains area. And then we do see that higher than average precipitation continue for the Great Lakes area, but we do go below average in those far southern U.S. states. And you can kind of see that it's kind of a typical summer pattern, especially for the southern U.S., but we do see some really warm temperatures into the 100s into Texas, and then as normal in parts of California, Arizona, even New Mexico. So we're not seeing anything too out of the ordinary over the next few days when it comes to temperatures, but we do have that chance of severe weather as I showed you, so please stay weather aware if you're in those areas. And thanks for watching this video.